Hello everybody, welcome back to my gaming review. I wanted to talk about the 3D era of gaming, basically the N64 and PlayStation 1 era of gaming, and just talk about how um, it was a very important era in gaming. So the 3D era, you had the PlayStation 1, the N64, and obviously the Sega Saturn. I always forget the numbers for these because there's like different console generations that have numbers, like 8th generation, 9th generation, 7th generation. Um, I always forget about what number it is. But anyway, the 3D era of consoles, the PlayStation 1 N64 era, is just all I'm going to call it, the 3D era. But this was a very important era in gaming history. It was the era where gaming finally went from just 2D games to full-on 3D. The N64 and PS1 both did 3D, as well as I believe the Sega Saturn. I never actually owned the Sega Saturn, so I'm not really sure about that console. But in the 3D era, we had a lot of fantastic games that were made that were obviously in 3D, and both of these consoles were capable of just full 3D graphics. The N64, you had like Mario 64, Zelda, and all that stuff that came out in full 3D, and like games like Mario Kart. On PlayStation 1, you had Resident Evil, Twisted Metal, and a whole huge library of games for both systems that had 3D. And um, there was actually 3D games in the past, but they were not like full on 3D like how these consoles play these games, because you had like Super Nintendo games and Sega Genesis games that look 3D, but they had to actually use like 2D to make it look like it's 3D. Um, I know it doesn't make much sense, but that's pretty much some games on Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis. They all like 3D, but both consoles can't do what the 64 and PlayStation 1 could do. Now, I've experienced this generation of gaming for a long period of time. I've played PlayStation 1 for a long time in my life. I've played the actual console, as well as I played the PlayStation 1 games on PS3 and PS2. A lot of the games are fantastic, and I've been enjoying the N64. I've played a lot of fantastic games of this system, and the 3D era of gaming was a really amazing era of gaming, and again, it was a huge jump from 2D to 3D. It was new technology, so they had to just, you know, pretty much, they had to like learn how to do it, and it was never done before the way the games were able to look. Um, and even though the PlayStation 1 was, um, even though the PlayStation 1 held more memory than the N64, and slightly more powerful. Both systems did 3D perfectly, and both systems were actually really good options when it came to that 3D experience. Because again, games like Mario 64, they really showed the 3D graphics of the N64, and it amazed people back then. 3D was a whole new thing in this generation, and people really loved the look of the graphics and the feel of it, because for so long people were used to the 16-bit era, the 8-bit era, and it was just basically just 2D. But in this era, the PlayStation 1 and N64 shocked everybody because they did full-on 3D graphics. The games were amazing in this generation, and both consoles just did a really, really amazing job. And again, on the PlayStation 1, you have Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, Resident Evil, Twisted Metal, which all looked amazingly back in those days. Obviously, nowadays, these consoles have aged, so it's not really a big deal nowadays, but back then, it was a huge deal when these systems came out in the 3D era. And again, on N64, you have, Donkey Kong Country, Mario 64, Mario Kart, Smash Bros. You have obviously 007, and so on. I mean, both of these systems did a really great job showing off the 3D capabilities. And both consoles used memory cards for like keeping memory. I mean, this was the generation that really showed off 3D, as well as made memory cards very important. The N64 and PlayStation 1 both used memory cards so that people could actually save their data and actually beat their games and keep all those saves on their console. On the N64, you have a memory card thing on the back of the controller, as well as the actual console has a memory expansion port. On the PlayStation 1, you have memory cards that go directly into the system, where you can actually save all of your progress. So if you play a game like Medal of Honor or Crash Bandicoot, you can easily just save your progress and then continue playing later on. So this is a generation that really made memory in consoles very important and a big deal. And these were the consoles that really made gaming evolve into what it is today. You know, because for so long it was just 2D, and then this was the generation that was like 3D graphics and all these awesome commercials where they would show off the capabilities of both systems. But anyway, I'm gonna end the video. I just want to make a quick video on the 3D era of gaming. I think it's a really fantastic, great era of gaming. I think the N64 and PlayStation 1 are both fantastic systems. And even to this day, yeah, they don't look as amazing as like a PlayStation 5, obviously, but both systems still look really good. And there's a lot of fantastic games on both of these systems that are really fun to play and are really amazing. And both consoles you could have a great time with. And anyway, I'm in the video, so tell me in the comments below what you think about the 3D era of gaming, and also tell me in the comments below which console do you own, or did you own back then, and which do you prefer? Do you prefer the N64 or do you prefer the PlayStation 1? For me, I honestly can't decide yet because I pretty much just got into this system, but I played both of these consoles. I like both of them. I can't really decide which one I prefer more, but tell me in the comments below if you prefer one over the other. Anyway, I'm in the video, so leave a like, and I hope everyone had a lovely day or night, and peace.